Good afternoon, fellow citizens. Welcome back to the Citizens Chat Show. My name is Masesa, demiano, and today we are discussing, and being that it's a holiday, we know that every 3rd June, Uganda commemorates the Martyrs Day, the 45 martyrs that refused to denounce their faith. And these were both Catholic and Anglican that were killed by the then Kabaka Mwanga II, the king of Buganda, in about between 1885 and 1887. And on the Martyrs Day today, I have a team of my guests that will help us understand and being the discussion on the significance of the martyrs and also the role of religion in shaping society. Joining on the panel and joined us today is our regular panelist, and always here with us is Joseph Ochieno. Joseph is the ideologue with UPC, but is also a writer. Joseph, you're welcome.
Good to be here this day.
Thank you. And followed by following Joseph is Dr. Sarah Bireete. Sarah is also a regular panelist here at the chat show, and she's also the executive director with the Center for Constitutional Governance. Sarah, you're welcome.
Thank you, and good afternoon, viewers.
Thank you. And then followed is Dr. Deus Kamunyu, is a lecturer at Makerere University. You're welcome.
Thanks for inviting me. Always, I appreciate your call.
Yeah, thank you, and of course with the bow tie, looks so nice on this public holiday. And finally, we have a very good touch today onto the discussion. Is Reverend Hosea Langat Musobo. Is a priest at the Diocese of Sebei. Reverend, you're welcome.
Great to be here.
Yeah, and being your maiden appearance on the chat show.
Thank
and being your maiden appearance, I think we need to start with you.
Thank you for that.
Being that you're a person who is so much into the faith, who is closest to God. We want to discuss of what significance is this day, the Martyrs Day, to Uganda, to Ugandans, and of course the region, because it's celebrated almost across. We've seen people moving as far as Kenya, Congo, Rwanda. Yep. Oh, what day is this? Significant.
Oh, thank you very much, our moderator and team, for honoring such a day such as this, when Uganda is celebrated world over because of the martyrs. The Kawaka maybe in the beginning thought he had done something simple, but eventually over many years now, it turned out to be something that has helped our faith deepen in Uganda in particular. But above all, matters have been many, both from the Old Testament through to the New Testament, and here we are part and parcel of the martyrdom then. When you look at, maybe to be a martyr is something very significant in that you die, and you suffer to die, to die for your faith. And this 45, and about 3 Muslims also thereabouts. We are yet to be to get the statistics right. Did us proud then as a Christian communion. But of course, imitating Christ, who died as a ransom for our sins, emulating Christ by even dear Ugandans then in 1885, about November to January 1987, when surprisingly Kabaka Mwanga was Daniel, which means he was a Christian previously, but of course an erratic one, who turned around to be that an enemy for Christianity in a country that He's further invited the Christians through Henry Morton Stanley to start up Christianity in our country. But of course, when you look at the Huntington, the Bishop Huntington, he died in Soga. Such a pity to kill somebody who has come to reinforce Christianity in your country. That was, of course, initiated by your kingdom. That was unfortunate. But of course, looking at the Bible, right from, you remember King Nebuchadnezzar, how he punished the three, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. Putting them in flames of fire was an act of martyrdom. When you look at through the Bible, because when you look at, as it is recorded in Matthew 28, 19, 20, Christ commissioned all those who followed him and worked with him to propagate the gospel, Christianity aside. But of course, you remember when you look at Andrew, he died as a martyr. When you look at Matthew, he died as a martyr. Look at Phil, he died as a martyr. Look at Barnabas, he died. And of course, even the stoning of Stephen was. So, as Uganda, we actually, we measure so well. But the reason that we celebrate this day is basically because of such a background. And just to give Uganda a bit of time. The spiritual, the pilgrimage to Namugongo, the Catholic shrine and the Anglican shrine, is going to catch fire. Well, you see people moving all the way from across the continent, countries of the world. And this we need to give it a focus as a country and see how best we can support the pilgrimage, the pilgrims as they come, because the moment they come, and of course, that journey alone is a journey of sacrifice that points to deepen faith, either in the Anglican shrine or the Catholic shrine, or now our Muslim community believers. So the mere fact that you've chosen for us to discuss the subject is to be welcome, very, very significant that great brains like the team you've put together weigh in a way of making our people understand deeper. Professor, I will get into history. In Uganda, when I hear that historians are supposed to be set aside, when history is that critical for us to understand the past so that we plan for the future in a manner that is deliberate, let alone. Yes, our scientists are good, yes. Most of my children are attending to the same. I don't know, because of the contemporary thinking, but history to me is very critical. Luckily, I'm an excellent student of African history. Well, just delighted, actually delighted to be part of such a discussion that discusses the history of the church and how we can carry it on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reverend. Yes. Dr. Deus, this is an area that you have passion in, and I think you'd also need to give us your thoughts on the significance of.
Did he miss his calling?
Yeah, he must. Were you in the seminary at some point?
Not really,
You did go to
but
seminary. Okay.
almost close. Almost close. Yeah, but also the the family in which I was brought up was a closed church. And
Wow.
very, and my father
Maybe I
participated.
should have talked about
in
the
lots
background of my family.
of
Yeah,
church.
I can see there.
So I associate with it. But speaking after the Reverend means I have to
Help you
to
again.
be a bit careful, but I'll still do, because if he kills me, then I'll also be a martyr.
Another, yes.
This day is of significance to this country in many ways. One, as a Christian nation, it shows us where we've come from. That's number one. Number two, it's of significance because it unlocks some economic benefits. Because when you see people travel from all over East Africa, to Uganda, it means we have a chance to market this country as a country of Uganda Martyrs, but also economically to earn from it. Leave alone today being a day when really people travel a lot, but it's also on itineraries for tourists to see where Uganda. And as we go forward, lots of people will be coming here, just like they go to Rome, they go to, I pray to God that this country remains stable, and like they go to other places where acts of pain and shame have been activated by brutes, brutal leaders. It's of significance politically also, in a way that these, by the way, every time there's a martyr, behind a martyr, there is a bad ruler, a brute, a shameless person who kills in broad daylight and devours human beings behind every martyr. And so politically, it's of significance because it really shows you we've gone through pain and shame, and the day talks to those who intend to rule as opposed to service, because every martyr seems to have been representing a higher rule in us. They are looking for freedom. They are yearning for better service. They are yearning for better leadership. They are yearning for space to exercise their freedom to belong to a group. It's a higher calling. It's a higher rule. I'm talking about rule in us, law. It's a higher rule. It's a higher place. It's a better place than what the rulers of the time were holding on to. Power and brutality and institution and culture, and to me, on the other side, total hopelessness on the other side of the ruler. And so politically, this day speaks to those who intend here at home and away to deny people freedom. Because we are celebrating Uganda Martyrs, but people should know that these who are looking for freedom of some kind, to be, to dwell, to become, to live this one life. And a brutal ruler exterminated them, killed them. And so it's of significance at that level. But finally, it's of significance because I don't think today was a day that the king then, the ruler, the brutal ruler then, foresaw. He was just exercising raw power. He just wanted to kill those who disagreed, or young people who had found a new way of doing things and a new way of living. It just, I don't think the king foresaw this. And it was not his intended. It was because I have heard people say, "Oh, if Mwanga had not killed, where would we?" No, it was not a foreseen intention. It was just an act of brutality, and it should never be dressed up. What can only happen is reconciliation with that brutality. That and in the subject which I know a little well because it's my doctorate, the history of violence in this country and how it has shaped the image of this country over years. So I had to get in terms with the stage we are at with the Uganda Martyrs is commemoration. They are being commemorated. And meaning there has been a long journey of reconciliation, of reconciling with these great people. And today we celebrate them as an act of heroism. But it was not the king's foreseen intention. He must be understood as a brutal king, but whose actions have been reconciled with. And now we can celebrate. Now it's on the other side. We can celebrate the spirit of those who were murdered. The positive spirit. And that's where the significance is. That this spirit is carrying on. And brutality should be remembered as brutality. And so, usually, this is politicized. And I thank leaders for accepting that this happens. And this is where maybe the NRM should, and the other governments that allowed the Uganda Martyrs to be given, to be honored, be given a day, should also be thanked. Because usually it's political. The kingdom would have said, no, don't expose our king. We don't want this day celebrated. Because martyrs all over the world, and my works also bordered what happened in the north in the first 20 years of NRA, the sites of pain and shame that were accumulated up there. Usually to get them a chance to be commemorated or designated as sites of hope and sites of never do again is a political process. And a government has to think through, because it involves reconciliation, it involves admission of a wrong. And so that's why I want to thank all those who have been on this journey of Uganda Martyrs, because it would have been lost somewhere. And the Catholic Church is part of that, and the Anglican Church, for recognizing them as saints. Maybe they had no choice because the church overtook politics, and also politics a bit. But pronouncing them saint, canonizing them saint, meant we had this beautiful thing that we have to celebrate. But to get more of these acts of shame and pain celebrated is a political thing, usually. And you may never get a day like this one, because there are so many matters out there that have not been celebrated. Yes.
Interesting, Doctor. You give us a very interesting perspective that gets us a little charged in the politics, which we shall have some good discussion around. But as we go on, because then that also shapes society, the way religion shapes society, and that is in there. I need to just bring on Sarah to tell us, does this day really speak to our faith as a people?
Not just faith. I think the question should be, does this day speak to us as Ugandans? Because if you look at and building Dr. Kamunyu's submission, this was a political decision made by Kabaka, who had no respect for fundamental rights and freedoms, including freedom of worship. So it was a political act, and you cannot, disconnect the two. But also at the heart of Martyrs Day is the struggle for fundamental rights and freedoms in Uganda. Freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom of worship, and freedom to demonstrate, petition. That is Article 29 of our Constitution. And under the Charter of Human Rights, I think freedom of assembly, association, and assembly run from Articles 5 to 9. So you have this freedom that was being violated, and the people saying, no, we have faith in the God that we serve. But also, on that decree by Mwanga, we had a decree that is replicated in the Bible, where Daniel was told a decree passed for people not to worship at certain hours, facing, you're trying to curtail freedom of worship. And then Daniel said, no, the God that I serve, I will keep worshiping him. And the decree later led to Daniel being thrown in the den of lions. So these matters were thrown in their own den of lions by Kabaka Mwanga. So it is also rooted in the Bible. And a solution in the Bible was found. I normally tell people, because if you go to the Old Testament or the Bible, and it's good to have the Reverend here, my own reclaim on religion is that like Deus really raised in a religious family. But personally, I'm a born-again Christian whose philosophy is more rooted into freedoms and justice. And so that's my religion really. So you have the God of the Old Testament, whom I prefer so much because he would answer immediately. I know that God still answers. And the Reverend will have his take because I am not really speaking as a clergy person. I have put my disclaimer. I find the God of the Old Testament very interesting. You violate people's rights, you torture orphans. He was spot on. You torture orphans, you torture widows, you get your punishment.
It deals with you instantly.
Leaders were banished, powerful kings banished, undressed, made naked, thrown in the wilderness. But now we have leaders violating people. And also during the day claiming to be Christian. So the God, after the transition of Jesus and the rest, God said he will reduce his anger and wait for judgment. I wish I had lived in the days of the Old Testament.
You're asking God to review, eh? Okay.
Yeah, but so you have these brutal leaders. And the Bible again tells us that the leadership comes from God. But at times you don't know where these Satan's angels that are holding power come from in several countries. Look at what's happening in Ukraine. Look at the Palestine struggle in Israel, the Holy Land. And at times you're like, but can God answer? For example, the Israel-Palestine question. Which is which? Because this is the Holy Land of Jerusalem. And then you have people dying, you have brutality, you have unanswered questions, you have the world failing to resolve that old, long-standing conflict. That is also written in the Bible. I will give you Israel. So you have all these controversies happening. And then, of course, now, since the medium of Jesus and forgiveness of sins, then we all wait for judgment day. But why do people like Mwanga? You have made a decree, you must kill. We still have a death penalty in our constitution. So how different is it? And where does forgiveness go? And the issues of living matters to God. You have sinned, God will revenge. Don't treat people the way they've treated you. And we have a number of countries, including Uganda, US, Kenya. There are a few countries that have God in their
Answer.
anthems, in their slogans.
Motto.
But most of these countries, again, are all messed up. Sorry. Oh, Uganda, may God uphold thee. You have the US.
In God we trust.
In God we trust. Do we have the same God? If you compare the disparities between the two countries, we are a country rooted into Christianity as a dominant religion, as much as there is freedom for other faiths. But do we practice Christianity? Genuine Christianity, do we? You have leaders taking oath with the Bible or a Quran. How godly are they in their actions? They have pushed us to judge because the Bible says leave judgment to me. But at times you're like, okay, maybe we should find another book for these people to take oath with. So you have all these controversies in our governance. But again, religion remains central to society in a way that it defines the social relations between the people. It also stands in to promote empathy, to promote ubuntu or oneness, to promote unity. It's a defining moral compass. It is all these good things. I have been, since the trekking of people to Namgongo started, I stay within that area. So I've been taking a closer look at the people walking to Namgongo. 99% of them are poor. Very poor. 99%. So this morning as I was coming from home, and we meet them in big numbers from all directions since the week began. It's a good thing to be committed to religion. But how come it's only the poor? And Reverend might maybe help us. Because I'm really now talking, I've won my full heart as an activist. How come it's only the poor that are committed to the detail of religion?
Honorable Kahindo Tafire was, I think, there yesterday or the other day. Then he was telling the worshippers that you need to move away from this whole idea of wanting to be given. You need to also make some money for yourself so that you worship God when you can take care of yourself. Because you can't worship God when you don't have money. When you don't like yourself, meaning you don't love God.
But even the Bible says it. I don't know the particular, among the teachings of Jesus, the parables of Jesus, that entering heaven will be very difficult for rich people. And God appreciated that half cent. I don't know the currency that the Bible was using from a poor woman because she gave from the heart. So you look at religion vis-a-vis income inequalities. If you go to churches, including biological churches where I go sometimes, more than half of the congregation are women. So you have the women, the poor, and the children. Why?
Hopelessness.
Poor people are walking to Namgongo. The rich can join from Express Highway. The rich join like a celebrity stunt. Express Highway, for a photo moment. Poor people are sleeping in those tents. I like that. Thank the people who have renovated Namgongo. There's some bit of comfort as compared to before. But why is it? that it's the poor dominating these pilgrims going to Namgong.
Interesting. And maybe I want to. I think we've gone a little into the politics of it, and but I would want to bring Joseph back. Joseph, you always use the word "you do God."
I do God, yes.
Yeah. how do you find this day to ask the people and to our unity as a people in the country? Yes.
No, I think, thank you, Damien. I think it's really the first time, interestingly, that I am discussing this matter on Uganda's national television. I have discussed it elsewhere. It's very important. Sarah, you're absolutely right that the Martyrs experience was a political decision by a king that Ugandans need to learn, need to know, and for the historians to pick and study and teach, and for politicians to pick a leaf on it. Starting with 1890, the arrival of Christianity, the Christian guys, their discussions and negotiations with Mwanga's father, it was basically about politics. It was really not about God. It was what do we give you and what do you give us and give us peace. Arguably, the Huntingtons and others would have wanted entry point into Uganda as space to reach onto their souls, for which they've done a great job, because I am absolutely 100%. I do God, meaning the Christian God, that God. But it was a matter of power. Once the Huntingtons landed, the Muslims had played their bit, the politics of control of Buganda started. Now, we should not forget that beyond Mwanga, from 1887 onwards, it didn't stop there. Reverend, I don't want to put you on the spot. You know, the battle between Catholics and Protestants started. So that by 1892, hardly 5 years later, the Protestants had taken over Mengo, political capital of Buganda, taken over Mengo, and you, Buganda, I'm saying it in good faith, because this is a conversation we must have, you know, taken over Mengo. Catholics had gone and been pushed to Budumasaka. I know most people in Budumasaka who are predominant Catholics don't know how they got in there. That's the fact. And Muslims had been pushed into some enclave in PG, Butambala. Control, political power control in Buganda. Sir, the politics of it. Spirituality, yes, you know. So from then on, Sarah, I get to know only 10 years ago that since 1892, once the Protestants controlled Buganda politically, you know, Catholics pushed the other end. Part of the agreement of a settlement, of peaceful settlements in this land, was that the Katikiro of Buganda must always be a Protestant.
Catholic.
And it was this case until...
Catholic.
No, must always be a Protestant. And it was the case until Joseph Sebei, just about 10, 15 years ago. I didn't know these things, you know. So it's not surprising that we have some of these battles. And I'm bringing the political element to go back actually to the Martyrs question. So really, I was shocked to see that this is the things as it might and as it would happen. Number two. But most importantly, did you know, that's why I'm delighted to be in this program, that every other time we discuss Uganda matters, there is this narrative, and editors, you must watch. Oh, the people died for their faith. It was rarely said the king killed, or the king ordered to kill. Reverend, am I putting on the spot? You know? And it's extremely important, because unless we do so, we are actually marginalizing and basically dismissing the strength of faith of these people on the one hand, and the politics that Sarah is referring to, which concerns us today, that we have got people who use religion and power and politics for themselves, and then they invoke my Obwana Jesus is named for nothing sometimes when it's convenient for them to apply. But that said, it's a little unfortunate because, yes, privileged to have Uganda Martyrs being in Uganda. When Museveni pushed me into exile, marched out of exile, one of the few good things about Uganda was actually an Anglican church in Honzi, in North London, where the Bazungu were quite proud to relate with me because I had a relationship with Janan Luwum, killed by Idi Amin later, and Janan Luwum is now a coming in saint, as it were. So Uganda, we have some kind of interesting history. Point is, do we learn? Do we learn? Interestingly, because of our history and roots, we should actually be a very religious country. We should be a very Christian country. Our founding parents even gave us for God and my country, about which I'm very proud. But you know what? I know Sarah was being diplomatic, the activist. But really, do rulers of this country do God? Do they? You can't do God and leave the death penalty in the statute book. I've committed myself that in the event that UPC comes into power, very quickly, we shall kick it off. I asked Milton Obote, Uganda's Watch, I asked him about this and told me, Joe, it was a process to repeal that. And say, remember, at no time did he sign a death warrant. And part of the argument is that I have no power and authority to sign off anybody's life, even if it had been granted by a judge. Really, this country's foundation, from that point of view, if we walked the walk and did the talk, it should be extremely holy, very religious. And if it were, and if our leaders were committed to the faith for which they killed unnecessarily their ordinary citizens that time, the redistribution of wealth in this country would be such that the people going to Namugongo would be almost a competition for the privileged Mecca. When you go into Uber and you meet many Muslims and you tease them, have you been to Mecca? They tell, no, not yet, I'm looking towards money. Oh, you're not obliged to go there until you can afford. Point is, in our country here,
ours is the opposite.
Ours is the opposite. Ours the opposite. And now, granted, this time around, I have not made the trip. I will be making the trip. I'm delighted some members of my family have done. And actually, just the other day, in fact, 2 days ago, a very close member of my family made the walking from Toro. Very proud of him, that young man, to have done that on behalf of his own, on behalf of his own behalf and on behalf of all of us. And it's a process that we need to build on. But of course, Sarah is also again right that this beyond tourism that Deus was talking about, I think all of us should be able to embrace this as an institution. And government should be able to take some of the money that they loot and steal, mobilize and organize and make sure that Namugongo is not only a place of pilgrimage when it's warranted, but maybe a place where there is real soccer and opportunity for Ugandans who need space over years in and day out to go and find a space, not only to worship, but a space for people to go and maybe receive counseling, receive opportunities, receive guidance, get good lawyers like Sarah, then we put a few million shillings. Okay, you, our national leaders, take some of those from classified budget and put $100 million so that there are people who are able to give support to Ugandans who are struggling, maybe struggling over land, domestic issues and things like that, in faith. And then we're saying that, well, we are a country living in faithfulness. But so I think it's a shame that beyond the pilgrimage over season, I do not see it in our national psyche that we are a country of faith, so-called religion. But yes, we see people steaming to churches and mosques, particularly to churches on Sundays. And I've written in my Sunday column, I think about 12 years ago, there was an incident in Mbuya where you see all these people streaming, but the previous day some child had been knocked off and this guy had and bossed, and by Monday morning, the very same guys who were marching down, the rich ones, in those big cars, they're the ones who will arrive in the offices at 11:30 and they also, who's that kind of stuff, and then they do the direct opposite. Those guys are taunting God. They're taunting God, and my God watches.
Thank you very much, Ochieno. I need to bring you back. You provoke this kind of line that we need to just have, and I want to ask, how does how does the actions of the Martyrs inspire, first of all, standing up for authoritarianism, authoritarian rule? And of course, we know that these Martyrs stood up for their conscience and beliefs against tyranny at the time. So how does this really inspire us?
First of all, my interest in this subject of martyrdom and acts of shame and pain relates more to one, creating tourism products out of this heritage, very tough heritage, meaning we can possibly earn from it. But within that process, and I want you to take this seriously, within the process of commemoration of these matters, and I've expanded them to those relating to acts of shame and pain, related to largely politics and conflicts between brothers and sisters. In there is a process of reconciliation, because you cannot commemorate without reconciliating with the symbol, you see. And that's my interest, that we create these as products for travel, but also as symbols of reconciliation. And this is why I was in my study, I did quite some listening and digging around Mukura massacre. I did lots of consultation and reading around sites of war in the north. I did quite some reading and also inquiries on the Kanungu. So my understanding, I am talking about acts of shame and pain, and they could be voluntary or involuntary, or, to put it simple, ordered or not ordered, but unfortunate acts. Like, for example, the Kanungu massacre, Kanungu Inferno, was an act of stupidity by a cleric. And again, related to a lot to politics, because for this cult to be allowed to operate for these years without government interrogating it was also unfortunate. That's why it becomes a political situation to commemorate this. And that's why today's event of Uganda Martyrs is success, and it's of significance because it tells us a lot. Yes. Back to your question, what does it, what does it mean to
does it inspire us to stand up to authoritarianism? Yes.
Narrowing it to belief, to ideas, it has a lot of meaning, because it shows that those who stand up to their belief, especially when it's a higher belief, and like I told you, most of these matters usually stand for a higher belief. It shows that when you stand for your belief, you are immortalized. Because everyone dies after all. Those who are eating 3-course menus, whether you are what, whether you are driving in 10 cars, whether you have lots of, whether you are swagging, you will finally die. But will your grave be marked like that of the Uganda Martyrs? Will it be a marked grave? Will your spirit, your being, be immortalized? Will you live after? Some don't care. Some, I don't mind. But how will you then be immortalized? Idi Amin is in our mind as a brutal leader. Manga is being remembered as a brutal king. But the other simple young men are being remembered as martyrs, as victorious people.
Symbols of faith.
And it's linked to the Bible also. This is exhortation. According to me, these because you see, God seems to empower humanity, his human beings he created, to endorse us, to even go to heaven. Yes, the Bible, God seems to use the human beings to endorse those who to go to heaven. And so when he exalts, he also makes your being be, it makes you to live on beyond your physical death. And to me, this is the message to those who are struggling, that all the things that we struggle for, that are positive, that are good, usually live beyond us. Yes, and for all those struggling, because after all, we will all die. I will die. I could die today or tomorrow. But what have I used? What am I using with my being? To steal from people? To degrade people? To be insensitive to people? To terminate a life for which you also have authority to protect? So to those struggling and those to authoritarian leaders, they won't live forever. They will live destruction. You know, we've had debates, and you may have often on social media, where I disagree with those who believe Gaddafi was a great man. Yes, if you're great, then make decisions that ensure sustenance of your country. He didn't have to be the only leader in Libya. Back to the topic. These matters speak a lot to those struggling for a higher goal, for a higher idea, an idea of being, that all beings are created equal, that all of us are created free, that of course that does not mean bad manners. That's why there are laws, and keep the laws, but we are all created free. Those who are struggling for these spaces all over the world, because these matters are universal now, it's not only Uganda, that all of us are created free, and these matters bring it out very well, that you will live forever, that your people will realize, now I think Sarah lived for a higher calling. After many years, you will probably realize those who are powerful, not necessarily servants, but powerful, will die. They will perish. And we have them in our history also. Mwanga being one of them. Idi Amin being one of them. And so many people, examples of people who are brutal, who are senseless, who are the boys of the brutal on the village, they die. They are decimated. But the act of a good man, like a Uganda martyr, even when they die young, Jesus is one of those, by the way. When they die young, they live on. They live forever. Their actions. And usually you must represent a higher idea. You don't represent a meal of the day or the power to decide, or you represent a bigger idea. So to authoritarian leaders, the Uganda matters are against them. Maybe this is a day for them to reflect on their authoritarianism and repent. And let's talk about even poverty, because I know many of these, let's say, politicians, politically, all those fighting for a space for everyone to be better, to have better education, to have better health care, to have an economy where everyone at least has something to take to a supermarket, or to have an economy where your garden yields, because the fertilizers may be a little affordable, etc., or irrigation systems are affordable. All those fighting for these, in a way, relate to Uganda Matters. They are fighting for a higher goal. It is true. Because I've told you, behind every matter is something political
yes.
also. And this is very, very key. So to authoritarian leaders, the Uganda Matters are speaking to you. Soften your hearts. Get onto the table. Talk to the other group. Talk to the matters. Because the matters are there in the making.
Yes.
This also includes, by the way, the Christian church. The Christian church itself. They must pick a leaf from these Uganda Matters. They may be the institution in charge of them, but how strong are they in terms of standing for the poor, the hopeless? It's just an institution praying? Oh, amen? How? Are these guys fed? Do they have Medicare? Do we care about this deeply? The Uganda Matters are speaking to everyone in power with a responsibility. Everyone exercising authoritarianism is being spoken to. And the matters, those fighting for this space, are also being spoken to by the Uganda Matters of today, that have hope. Because when you stand for a higher idea, for higher calling, for something that impacts many, you live on, you live forever, you are exalted. And for all of us, authoritarian and the matters, to know that we will die. We will all one day die. And we should mind about the grave in which we are going to be buried. Will it be marked like that of Uganda Matters? And marked physically in the hearts and in mind of the people? Or will it be a painful grave, unseen, and resisted, rejected, misunderstood, controversial? What grave do you want? And of course, those who believe that probably authoritarianism yields to such, I disagree with you. Because there is no authoritarian leader that has this event of the 3rd June as a foreseen event. They are basically looking for their power. They are basically making decisions that secure a narrow goal for themselves, for their family, for their group, for their ignorance, maybe.
Interesting. Yes. Thank you very much. Doctor, I know as we are almost tending to the break, I need to bring on a Reverend. You know, most times political players always want to ask that you distance yourselves from politics. Yet, when time for politics come, they always want to use you as mobilizers for the same. But in here, I would want to ask you, does still on the inspiration, what we pick from the Matters, does this story of the Matters inspire us to unite? First of all, also mobilize along religious lines of possible for transformation, socially, politically, and economically.
Thank you. First and foremost, I have loved this debate because of the decorum and dignity. Here I feel at home. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank Professor for igniting the debate towards the political angle of the matters. Indeed, it was political. That one I appreciate. And it has continued to be political until such a time that we turn it otherwise. There was also, of course, the aspect of freedoms enjoyed and rights lost, and of course the legal mind will of course look for at least the laguna in sorts to push in a few ideas about how human rights of the 45 were violated. Because they were serving their God. But why must somebody oppress people to the extent that they lose their lives for their faith? The beauty, of course, was that they accepted to die for their faith. And the reason, the most reason that we are celebrating them as martyrs. Of course, Joe, you've spoken on and unlocked part of my mind that had slept on the history of this country and the history of many things that has shaped most dynamics, including people going to the bush. But of course, what really disheartens us is that the cause in which or for which they went to the bush has been lost. That is unfortunate for us. That is unfortunate for us.
Maybe they imagined the cost. Because did we know their agenda? We are basing on what they told us.
Incidentally, Sarah, I look back and say, I have known for a fact that risk takers are the most successful people. Now, there is the imagination and thinking that we risked. And so, but somehow, I need to speak to my president and tell him, you've done a great job in the past, but the direction in which we are moving actually we are moving into monkey waters that it would not look good for this country if sincerely we must leave Uganda better than before, or if we must leave Uganda better than we thought we had fought for. Back to the political. Yeah, one thing that I have known for a fact with the Anglican Church, are delighted for a number of things. In as far as the building our current shrine, is concerned, because that's an area where the most matters were, and for so long, it was a sleeping giant. I want to thank our counterparts, the Catholic faith, that they went ahead and even did more unique things. Maybe for the case of us, we didn't have the resources, but of late, the sleeping giant, the Anglican Church, has woken up. Joseph, you must have realized. We are struggling and using our own resources and actually teaching our own people to give, to tithe, obligatory, thanksgiving, think about fast foods. And the church is now moving. Actually, the Anglican Church in the long run will be more sustainable than the rest of, so to speak. But of course, the political question, like you have said, yes, there's a lot of influence. And in the interest of having the voters on their side. But again, what are we voting for is critical. What are we voting for? You should push us to vote for you when you do the right thing. I would praise my Lord if I saw everything that I have prayed for come to pass in a very positive manner. At times I feel very bad when I see Ugandans in their own right asking for that they require for life, basics, and they are suppressed, they are arrested. It's unfortunate. And I want to go on record to have spoken as a priest. Yes, we can continue looking on my child. I know the priests we have today are literate. They're very passionate about a country called Uganda. And incidentally, if they are helped by those in leadership, because like you've said, the relationship between the political and the religious, like Yahweh Joe put it, the Anglican Church has been at the center of business of leadership in this country for quite a while. And of course, this was tailored way back from the colonial time. Yes, the Queen of England is an Anglican. Yes, and Uganda was the colony of the British. That one, take it to the bank, we have enjoyed it. But how have we used it, that opportunity? How have we used it? Yes, I see our brothers beat about it, looking at us as though we pick. Yes, if a country like Uganda, the way they have moved, give support to the clerics, give them transport to go and complement that they are doing good, and support the communities. Like Sarah was saying, she worked and saw most of the pilgrims are poor from the ghetto. So I want to tell you, the Ugandan population, the have-nots are extremely many. The statistics are lying us. Statistics that from UBOs are lying us. Ugandans are poor. And actually, as we talk today, their families who are not doing well. You know, there was the fun made by everybody the other day when my beloved president said we go for Mogoro, cassava. Yes, that only man can take cassava. What of his children? What of the grandchildren? Can they afford?
He also takes it by choice.
No. With him is a very disciplined person in terms of the 4 meals and the 3 course. Or he eats smart, clean. But of course, we are quite a huge task to face it on. To face the elephant in the room. He's huge. And it calls for concerted effort. I remember a while ago when I did an interview and said, change is a must, and it is inevitable. And it will come when tears come. But I want to say, the politics of this country, as shared by these great brains, they need some think tank, and people be given an opportunity to think through and speak their minds without suppressing them. There, we shall have a very peaceful country. We shall have ourselves enjoy this pearl of Africa. This is the most beautiful part of the world. But for those of you who have not visited Kapchorwa, it is not until you reach Kapchorwa that you believe that, yes, Uganda is beautiful.
With the mountains of the sun.
Or the mountains of the sun.
Fantastic place. You must go.
Imagine, yes. So back to the question of politics. We need to get it right. Yeah. When we get our politics right, but get our spiritual life right.
Of course, yeah, indeed.
We shall live in a fantastic country. Professor, you know, of course, as a student in Makerere, then I asked myself, why was NRM candidates in Makerere failing? I did a small paper and shared, and the first person to benefit from my research was Robert Lutaro. Then Abbas in the graduate school, because I was the speaker of the graduate school. Well, that aside, your Martyrs Day is an opportunity for us to reflect, the way the Professor had said, reflect on our past. Reflect on our past and look at how are we socially. Are we changing positively in the social aspect? How are our families? How are the marriages of this country called Uganda? How is the education system? Because with a good education system, quality, we shall produce some serious right-thinking Ugandans. And we, the clerics, will come in to put the morals, and we shall have a great country. Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend. I think from that point we need to have a short break, but also at some point we'll need to discuss the fact that just these past weeks we've been having protests on the road, on the economy, the rising prices. We've seen these protests happening. We've always had protests happening all over, processions happening, but we've seen them being curtailed. But so we'll need to have the answers of why do we allow the protests going on to Namgongo, and we can't allow these protests like these to happen that also affect people, their fundamental rights. Let's have a short break, but this conversation is happening all over on Twitter. We're on our YouTube channel, the Civic Space TV. ChatShowUG is the hashtag. Civic Space TV hashtag is also the hashtag that we're having today. And also, as we're following the prayers that are happening at Namgongo, let's have a short break and return.
The Citizens Chatroom happens every Friday at 2 p.m. on Civic Space TV Online on Facebook and YouTube. We invite you to be part of this conversation. Civic Space TV, freedom always.
Welcome back from that short break. And of course, I think, and also know that you're enjoying your holiday. It's a holiday we love to say. And also, the conversation streaming here is a part of the celebrations that are going, the prayers that are going, the commemorations that are happening for the Martyrs. On ChatShowUG, the hashtag is, we're having the conversation there on the Civic Space TV hashtag. We're having the conversation YouTube, streaming live on Civic Space TV, and also on Facebook. We're live on Instagram with some parts of clips running on TikTok. For those that do TikTok, let's have these conversations and also get informed on what is happening around. In the discussion, I was joined today onto this conversation with Reverend Hosea. He's on. I have Dr. Deus Kamunyu, Dr. Sarah, and Joseph Ochieno, who've joined me today into discussing this conversation. And Sarah, we almost ended at the point where we were discussing the inspirations we get from the Martyrs and what we do in our day-to-day life. But like we ended this conversation, we've seen these processions happen. I think yesterday there was a report, and of course the media was releasing out. We're showing schools being closed for about 2 days before because of the inconveniences around. We've seen most of you that come from or that use that route in Namugonga being inconvenienced all through. Then one would wonder and ask a question: why are these protests so okay? But yet the protests that also are claiming for, also requesting for government to intervene in the high rising commodity prices are also happening, but they're being curtailed. We have of course legislators and of course they're still in prison because of these protests. Yet they're all bordering rights, yeah, and freedoms. And you talked about them. Why are these ones okay, but the other ones are seen as government as criminal?
Well, before I come to your question, I have over the years observed the abuse of worshippers right in Namgongo by the people who play loud and religious music outside Namgongo. Whenever I pass there, and since I'm going to join the teams this evening, because I will put it to the leadership, especially around the Catholic shrine. I don't know why they tolerate that nonsense. Sorry to use that word. You have people, believers, they have walked so many kilometers to come and pray in peace, worship, praise, pray, appeal to God, make their petitions. Most of them make these trips when they are fasting because of the power of fasting and prayer and dedication. Then just outside the Catholic shrine, you have the vulgarization, obscene music. Of course, outside it's like a trade show. It's what you're saying, people are free. They take over the streets, they take over the road reserves. I don't mind the trade because there's a population, there's a market. But why the vulgarization of the worshippers? And how come the leadership, both political and religious, cannot tame that vulgarization and bastardization of people coming to connect with their God? Who needs that music? Don't people know where the discos are? So it is a failure. Now it is Chira municipality, failure of Chira municipality to tame noise pollution, failure of the leadership in Chira municipality to respect the rights of worshippers and believers congregating in those areas, and failure of the church to protest against this nonsense. So among the issues that are taking me there is to register my protest and tell these people, and I will put it in writing after, that they must tame that nonsense. If people have come to connect with God, if you want to play music, let it be religious music or keep quiet. They don't need that music. They need peace. If they need the music, they will sing. I would actually close the music if I was part of Chira municipality leadership. So that needs to be dealt with. It's an abuse of the worshippers gathering in these places. The rights and freedoms of assembly, of walking, people are free to walk from Fort Portal. People are free to walk from Western Kole, my diocese that is now in charge of leading prayers at the Anglican Shrine, and the Fort Portal Catholic Diocese that is leading prayers at the Catholic Shrine, and many other people that are trekking in. Today we met a team from Jinja arriving, and many other districts that previously we've had people trekking in from Kenya and Tanzania on foot, and other countries in West Africa as well, walking for weeks and weeks to connect with God, and then you abuse them with worldly music. I really don't understand. So the rights to move. I know many constitutional scholars and practitioners have said that the only right respected under the fundamental rights and freedoms in the Constitution is freedom of worship. People are free to, if you want to sleep in church. It's only now recently that people are coming in to register their protest against the noise. So these churches must create the noise proofs in their churches, or control the noise in the night, because they are disturbing the peace of the other people surrounding the places. So we have not had any prohibition when it comes to freedom of religion and worship under President Museveni's leadership. To the extent that we have even had cults, including the cult, because of the freedom. So people can go to church and do whatever they. We have seen abuses. Recently, we see videos on WhatsApp, people powering soda, people. So I think as much as, yes, there is freedom, but there is need, first of all, to regulate. So if you register and say, my religion follows the Bible, then what part of the Bible makes you power soda on people? Or make them drink water you have bathed? And you are bathing naked before the church? What part of the Bible? So I think that kind of real control needs to come in to help the helpless that are running to church with all their hopelessness. We have seen recently, there is a video that a couple, I don't know whether they're Ugandans, that a couple wanted to, but we serve a universal God, so it doesn't matter where it's coming from, that a couple had failed to conceive, so the worshippers were there, and then they were making love in church as people were praying that they conceive. I mean, really, I think people... I had at one point had wisdom from Justice Vatema, is a gender activist, a justice of High Court. So he was saying, women, I don't understand women. You know how to read. You have the Bible, but you run to a pastor every day to read the Bible for you. And later it results in two other things. So he was blaming both parties. and truly so. So I think people need to read the Bible. We have, I think, audio, even those who don't know how to read. I think we have an audio version of the Bible, and in several languages. You know, people, the digital revolution in terms of religion has advanced more ahead of the other. We are struggling to create the digital constitution. But also because the constitution changes every now and then. So if we invested millions of money, because it's so expensive, and digitalized the constitution, then what do you do when it changes? And some articles are cut out. You also go to the app.
You update the software.
But the Bible has not changed over time. Yeah, and people have been able to digitalize it, and people can listen. When you go to the internet and type in a Bible in whatever language you want, it comes. So people have advanced so much, you know, the commitment, and maybe that's another issue we need to talk about. In terms of mobilization, in terms of commitment and advancement of religion, I wish people got the same energies and invested them in democracy.
It's true.
We would have a revolution, a 360-degree revolution, because you cannot compare the commitment. That's why people exceed and abuse the rights of the faithfulness and then do cult behaviors, and because the people are there. And if you say stand up, sit down, you know, in church, even parliament fails, you say speaker, order, and the people are standing and jumping. But it can never happen in the church. So I see that when the Deus is looking at me. So if we could have I don't know how to call it, if we can marry the behaviors, maybe clarity of ideology, clarity of expectations, there is evidence of what God has done, and it is known, and He can do it. He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Maybe all that creates, I don't know, my companions will have a take. So you have this, the government respects freedom of religion, worship. They cannot do anything. Actually, if somebody wanted, the easiest way in Uganda, if you wanted to start a rebel movement, you start it as a church. It would take this government time to discover what you are doing. Because so long as you put a structure there, you have your freedom as compared to the political actors, where the regime is overzealous. But I also want to compare the element of violence between the government of Sekabaka Mwanga and what we are experiencing today. We might not know whether we are producing martyrs or not today. Like the regime has never created its own heroes or celebrated its own heroes, although NRM through blasphemy in courts celebrates, creates, and awards heroes. Heroes will be determined by the next government, and villains will be sorted out by the Ugandans that will exist then. Whether you get medals, whether you get certificates, whether you throw how many parties, the day NRM gets out of power, Ugandans will pronounce the villains and the heroes.
About that.
Yes. So.
Thank you, Sarah. And Joseph, I know you have a mouthful to react to from what has been discussed.
No.
Before we go now deep to
because
religion now.
Because we're commemorating the suffering of martyrs, I shall be very shy, so I'll limit. But just to quickly say that, no, on a serious note, these 45 individuals were impressive citizens of this country, considering that they committed themselves
With high integrity.
up to that time, at that level, from in 1885, 6, 7. One of the biggest tragedies of this country today is not only about the hypocrisy of Ugandan citizens, you, the 40 plus millions, but the hypocrisy of Ugandans who trace back history, context and content and reference from Ugandan matters and boast about it, But over 100 years, have lived through all this, including the tragedies my colleagues are referring to. Some of them continue to boast, especially the men, that they're men, and some women, and they do the exact opposite of what the martyrs did. And in many cases, they are hardly prepared to stand up for even the tiniest of injustice in our society. So massive credit to these people. Not only they stood up, but they're prepared to die for their causes. Now, my hope would be today going forward that actually when we go towards June, all of us as citizens would begin to review, reflect our own lives, seek our own reconciliation with ourselves, with our communities, with all that we engage with, and with our gods, so that our gods, in plural, again, very deliberate, so that by the time the Uganda Martyrs season, real celebration, beginning maybe particular 1st, 2nd, 3rd June, like today, it would be a time for healing, a time for fresh start. It is extremely unfortunate that it is 2020. Kibwetere, you're right. Kibwetere apparently was, I was then elsewhere. Kibwetere then was the chief celebrant, as I understand it, of the Millennium Celebration in 2000. Or at least one of the key celebrants at the National Millennium Celebrations.
Oh, really?
Yes. And if he was, then where were the security services? Where were the state operatives? How did he come to the toppest high table? What was it? What is it that this country doesn't know? But not about that. I hope also that it would be the case going forward, that future celebrations around this time, indeed, we would be able to use these times, as I was referring during break, to what the Germans now do, and particularly they did after the German reunification. The German leaders from both sides came and started saying that, look, we know that we killed one another for basic ideological differences. We actually know that we went to the extremes in terms of what we did to the Jews. In fact, We are saying that we want to have a new country where we're able to live in harmony. Regardless of how far they've gone, it's neither here nor there, but they made those concerted attempts. So that in Uganda's case, it wouldn't really be about Mukura. There's no reason why we cannot actually start from really 1885, look at the atrocities then committed that we are talking about today, and all the political and the injustices, including the injustices by the Protestant establishment against Catholic majority in Buganda, which felt quite suppressed over a period that I think both of you were trying to refer to, leading up to the formation of Uganda National Congress in 1952 as the political party of the time, where there was a position that is the party for Protestants, because it was an established faith at the time that the Reverend is referring to, with the emergence of the DP, the Democratic Party, 2 years later, almost as a countenance to say, let's found a political party of our own. All those are real political conflicts, but they've led directly in one or another to violence. And then fast forward to our independence, the conflicts we've had, Buganda, Bunyoro, independence challenges that we've had, 1964, 65, 66, events leading to 1966, events around 1966, 1969, then emergence of Amin and how Amin brutalized and who were the friends with Amin, put up our hands, simply said that we were sorry, we stood against our own fellow citizens, simply either because of religious or political differences, including 1979 Liberation War, which, well, yes, it was a liberation war, but there would have been atrocities from both sides, or deaths, which you say unnecessary deaths. From there on, the Luweero butcher and massacres that the Musevenis took to Luweero and whatever else happened from there. And fast forward, including the concentration camps in northern Uganda. All of those, today we should be saying, Ugandans, we've killed ourselves enough and mercilessly. How do we use the saints who stood, 45 individuals, to commit themselves to God against brutality? I think that really would have been. So really, as I was saying, this should be the day for national healing and national reconciliation and big statements from leaders. But which leader will give big statements on this day? They will come to grandstand. Maybe they should wait for a future UPC government.
Interesting, Joseph. Right there.
I knew.
We need to know. We'll wait to see when UPC comes through. But
believe, have faith.
I just want us to turn a little onto dig deep into religion itself. Yeah, and I need to invite you, Reverend, again, and just to tell us, how does religion or religious practices do they have enormous potential for addressing today's social problems?
Oh, thank you, moderator. Actually, religious institutions are supposed to be the moral compass of a serious country or a serious nation. And it is perfectly like so. Well, as we stand, if I can speak from where I sit in the Anglican Church, Archbishop, but maybe expanding way back to Nkoyoyo. I think the leadership in the Anglican Church became deliberate over many things to revamp. I mean, coming from the dark times of the army and taking advantage of the new government. This guys came smart. They came in. They were angels as they came in, and like everybody, like Professor was saying, the acts of Mwanga were acts that nobody could project or determine what eventual result and effect of the action would be. So, like all of us, many of us are in shock when we see the changes that we are seeing, because of course, would imagine our president is this Christian, this chairman, Scripture Union at Intare.
Was he?
Yes.
Wow.
He was a
Wow. No
brilliant
wonder some
guy.
people get
No, no,
persuaded.
see,
I don't.
Hey, but by the way, interesting that my daughter was the chairperson of Scripture Union King's College.
Excellent.
And I usually crack jokes that now you guys, some of us were leaders.
So they are the
The next
alumni
one.
now.
So I was telling her, this chairperson Scripture Union thing is a big thing.
Nice, yeah.
It's a big thing. I want to say the church has a role to play as we celebrate the Martyrs. And also, we want to thank the government, also gazetting 16th of Feb as another important day to remember and reflect about the good works. But the standing on the truth of the late Bishop
St. John.
John and Law.
John and Law. That one, I think, is in our time must have been the smartest. The smartest in the sense, matter that we could look to, because he stood to rebuke the tyrant. That was daring, and how many of us would want to have such a person as our mentor. I don't know, reflect further to help the church get to, like India. India has like about 4 special days. There's the 30th of January, Mahatma Gandhi. There's Martyrs Day for the Indians. There's the 11th of March. Then there's the 17th of November, and which other day? If my mind can help me recollect well. Those celebrations about reflecting on democracy, it don't matter. So if we can take advantage of these 2 days,
Ours we have.
the one of today.
Ours, don't we have Heroes Day and Teresa?
No, forget about those ones now. We are now talking about Martyrs.
Which is
Because they also, in those days, they claim these people.
that they died for you.
They killed you.
We are talking of people who died
Seriously. Yeah.
for a serious cause.
Yes.
Their faith. And they are marveling in heaven, by the way, those guys. But yeah, they're 45 now. John and Law. We could say we have 46 Ugandans. 47 Ugandans whom we are sure of. That they
That are in heaven.
Yes. So, like
The
you're
rest
saying,
will have to do their
the church has a bit. The church, like you have said, the church, like you have said, need to step up and move forward and be counted as the only institution in the country called Uganda that gave direction that nobody would have ever thought of. That is important. That is key. And that way, we will celebrate as Ugandans. And people who are thinking naive or short term should wake up. Yes. When you look at the Bible, 40 years. Many people will not go beyond 40 years in. Look at the Bible.
yeah.
And it's not that I'm cursing my good president. His time is up for him. 40 years is biblical. I'm sorry.
But it's very privileged to have 40 years in power. It's a
Will
big
criticize
privilege.
me for saying so, but the church has to step forward and help steering this country. We have a great Archbishop who is now the chairperson of the Inter-Religious Council. His Grace Stephen Samba Mugaru Kazimba is very brilliant, very good. But I don't think he can be compromised in any way. Even the Archbishop of Kampala now, even the Orthodox, the new, if they can stand out as a team through Interreligious Council, if you can use the GSCC to broker for the best for this country, that would be the best. Well, some of us, yes, we would wish if we were in positions of more influence than we are today. But in our small way, we are trying. We are trying to push our, the leaders of our localities to come to terms to the real deal that our communities will do. But using religion as a yardstick or as an instrument or tool, you, the Christian followers, give us the respect that we deserve in invoking God and praying for God to uplift souls and even shake the high and mighty and those who think maybe they are small gods. We would achieve much. But again, our own Christians let us down. Yes. You know, the church, you know, the interesting, the great brains here took the debate of this matters into a very interesting direction of political that I had not had in my mind. I had not envisaged it because all along I knew most of the wars and conflicts are about resources, about economic well-being of the person. But the way the brains brought it to, I didn't know. Actually, you got me off guard.
This is okay. And by the
yes.
Also we see quite a lot that each time possibly as a church, as a priest would want to come out, then you swallowed into patronage.
Oh yes.
You awarded big cars, SUVs, and
we are actually victims as Church of Uganda of discussions of sorts, in that we are given cars as a way of compromising. I think far from that, I would imagine those who, as a church, we may not have the resources to give a bishop the figure of the person of the bishop a nice car to transverse the diocese. I think that's a good. I want to convince every Ugandan that take it from us that transport for a person of that kind actually would even go on to persist and lobby that even the clergy are given some form of modest transport.
I think, Reverend, the problem comes in on how the church leadership conducts itself after these tokens are delivered.
I think that's the challenge.
Which
means the thinking and discussion is the aftermath of the actions of the person.
If you were receiving this, because it's taxpayers' money, it's not that somebody is really performing a miracle. It is taxpayers' money. So if you stood on the pulpit and said, I know church resources are collected here in church, but I know that the people, the sheep that I take care of, pay tax, and through your taxes, transport has been covered, and then you continue to do your work. But if you receive these vehicles,
Oh, yes,
the
please.
guzzlers. And all we see is pray for, and you are not talking about the suffering of the people. Yet Jesus stood for social justice.
To that point, I'm tempted to say, praise the Lord.
Amen. Amen.
But also, Reverend, in response to that also,
Yes.
can we also, there is this whole trend where politicians, whom we know and are on record for have been involved in corruption, swindle resources, once they come to the church, you have them the front seats because they know that they're going to either give you a fundraise hugely or something. Why don't we see a change there that in a way you push them to the back and allow the real believers take on some of these causes?
Thank you very much for that question. That's a very common practice in all churches. Unfortunately, the people we single out as those that behave like so, or come and take the big seats in the church, are sinners who also want
Salvation.
you mentioned it.
Can I make it lighter then? Actually, it may not necessarily even be about that, because to be fair to yourselves,
Yes, Josh.
it may not necessarily
Yes,
be
sir.
the case that somebody who was previously a minister, known and regarded, comes in, has been committed to Lozira, is out and comes to church. It's possibly unlikely that you give them the most rear seat. The issue is possibly not the seat where the seat, but it's the seat and how they are presented, including how, I think Damien can't say it all, how they're not only prayed for and how almost everyone else is forgotten about them. In fact, may I suggest that one of the things that you should do is to speak out and also single out people, where some of your colleagues do, that look, some of these things is bad. It is actually sin, it's actually criminal, that one individual can take billions of shillings that is supposed to be going to save lives to put in their pockets, and then the following day they come and burst in church. I think if you took generally that position, some of these people would think about the next time they want to make those trips. But not that we don't recognize that all of us are sinners.
Yes. To Joy, you even make it more tricky for me.
Sorry.
But the truth of the matter is that we have all fallen short of the glory.
Yeah, fair enough.
If I could use the case in point of the Bible, where this lady was accused in front of Jesus. You remember the actions of Jesus?
Yes.
Yes, whoever is clean, or whoever is should cast the first stone when people disappeared. Incidentally, in this country, we are not angels, not even we.
No.
So we have we have the big challenge to face. Should have a concerted effort as good citizens of this country. But by the way, it is not. I mean, we still have some of the most decent Ugandans. Like when I look at the team here, yes, how I would imagine such a team takes on leadership. Actually, how we imagine such a team takes up the role of advising, not to be advised again as advisors. I don't know, advising the state.
Oh.
Yes.
Which state?
The state called Uganda belongs to us.
The inadvisable state.
Thank you, Reverend.
Maybe just to conclude, the church, when it takes its right position, will see everything stable.
Yeah, maybe before you let Reverend off the hook, I know that there are statements of comfort, and religion is supposed to be part about that. we are all sinners, we have all fallen short. But this is a critical debate, and we are saying what can the church bring on table. So it does not call for those statements of comfort, of cast the first stone. We are saying, look, there's a church. When did you go to sleep? And can you wake up? I think that's what we are more interested in. Can you wake up as a church?
Well, that's a tough one, Sarah. Some of us individually, single-handedly, I think we have. I am on record on this country.
Yes.
So I've taken
True.
on the president head-on.
True.
And I'm lucky to have walked away with all my statements that I've ever made before the president.
Yeah.
But far from that, the president we have, I'm yet to understand what derails. I mean, because in his heart of hearts, there is a Uganda somewhere that should move somewhere.
You know,
But I don't, in the heart of the president.
No,
But I don't know
let's talk about the church.
who has held him captive. Because
No.
because we are doing.
No, but
we are
you
doing
don't know
our
that.
best.
Reverend, let's talk about the church, which is a body of Christ. And Christ stood and worked and lived for social justice. Let's talk about the church. Is it still the body of Christ?
Well, we could be having gaps. Which gaps by prayer. I used to be the member of Provincial Assembly before I took my sabbatical some time. But maybe as we get back, and now that we are back, I think we can start we can start some rethinking some of this.
Thank you, Reverend. Let's not put you on the hot seat. Let's get it. I need to invite you, Doctor. Doctor, of course we are discussing the possibly the potential of the church in addressing these social problems. But in there, I would want also to ask, how does religion in itself affect human behavior in society? Because that feeds into what we are trying to discuss.
Of course, when you talk about religion, Ugandans may be quick to point at the Christian organized religion or Islamic organized religion. But there are several other religions, including Shaka. I don't know what they believe in. There's also this.
That's a cult.
They are organized. They have a way of. You can call them cults.
Guarded by the presidential.
I have seen because this is a. I don't know. This is a matter of debate also. The subjective and objective religions. There is one which I saw people dressing up in yellow. I don't know what under what category, because there's Pentecostal religions. They also say for us we are not a religion. No, anything organized and having a writing point is a religion in a way. I saw then there's also this. I don't know if it's African religion or Sinje. I've heard.
Which one is that?
This one of photos and
this one which believes in our Trezi kind of. Have you heard of it?
That is a really alternative religion. Separate it from this one.
No. I want us to open our. I don't want us to be subjective because later then you sieve out the objective religions and
because what is religion?
But largely African religions are also part of religion, and they are allowed. Constitution, I think, freedom of worship. People who go to the mountains to worship. But when you talk about religions, people tend to think of the Catholics, Protestants, the Orthodox, actually not really often, but they also come in because people don't know, and the Muslims. And going to statistics, about 78% of Ugandans belong to the Christian religion. Meaning if we are also to draw from them in terms of impact society, the behavior, everything, would quickly blame them. In most cases, if we say, okay, let's apportion the morals to these guys, because they are the moral compass of society for our society. 78%. If they coughed, this country would all cough. If these guys cough, this country coughs. If they said, Your Excellency, look here, we cannot imagine that millions of people walking from villages to Namugongo today almost live either below
the poverty
$1 a day or just slightly above $1 a day. And we cannot take their faith for granted. They have come to look for manna from heaven. They think that once they are here, their socio-economic problems will be sorted. That's the truth.
True.
there's an element of hopelessness.
Yes, they are here. Let's not talk about this faith thing and isolate it from our daily needs. If I conducted a deep study with an anthropologist, the people in Namugongo today, you would find many of them are there, one, for political show. I have to be seen to be with others. I have to be seen to associate with other people. Two, would find out that many of the people there, especially those from are out for an opportunity from these Uganda Martyrs to provide for their social and economic needs. And maybe 1% or if below would be there solely for growth of their faith. And maybe you'd also find a little
like
a group
5%.
who have joined just to also see places along the way, Fort Mubende, yes, and you.
Actually, those are the people who get lost.
Kampala,
can do the work.
Kampala.
We have those that got lost.
But a few people would be there for spiritual growth. And that's very important to me. Because then the church has a lot to do. They should not also be like the heathen, really. They should reflect deeply about these gatherings. Not look at them as
A statistic.
yes, people looking. There are many reasons why people are here in Kampala and Namugongo, and I'm very sure majority are here thinking that after they've returned, the Lord God of the Martyrs will provide for their social and economic needs. And another group will have come here to see new places, maybe for tourism, and to waste time because probably they don't have serious business to do at home. Who knows? And I have then the others, the very small group would be there for really spiritual renewal. By the way, if we also did a study among, because I have a right as an academic to hypothesize, you would also find that maybe 90% of clerics, the priests, and are not there for any business to do with the spirit. They are not even convinced. Most could be there for a job, for a day's job.
They've been obliged to be.
And and that's very unfortunate, of course, the hypothesis. Because if they were serious, they would really do the Jesus thing. And this is where I come into. Because it's very easy for us to say, those who have not done it, to refer to Jesus saying, those who have not done, let them cast it. But if you ask them what Jesus later said to this woman, they may not bring it out clearly because she go and see no more.
Yes.
They are not willing to say that also.
That's very important, actually. Yeah.
But also, they don't easily pull out events, and there are so many where Jesus was with the lorry, was whipping what would have been the church of God then, the temple, and into perspective, because he went to the temple, so he whipped those who were trading in his father's house. I mean, I imagine they must have been some corrupt people trying to, do things the other way around. I don't see many believers pull out those events where Jesus was for the Jews, was for the Rori, was working against the Roman emperor, where Christ was the symbol of hope, where he stood for those without a meal, where he fed. I imagine the symbolism in the feeding of 5,000 also has something to do with those probably who had nothing to eat.
Yeah.
Because I don't want those who preach about Christ really to do it in a spatial, when it is convenient. They must bring out this Christ Jesus, whom I, by the way, hold as a hero. I keep telling my colleagues, I may not go to church, but I know my hero.
Do you go sometimes?
I do, but
For baptism and those.
I know my hero. Christ is my hero. Christ, the symbol, is my hero. Because Christ represents all good things that society can rally around. And we see Christ, countries that really embraced Christ and later went away from Christ, like one of them is the French. Because when you read through, I didn't do history, but I read the French Revolution, you see aspects of religion marrying with the state to undermine the ordinary, the Republicans, those who wanted a free republic, a free country. And I see that replaying itself in a way. And that we do these things, but I see it every day. I see the church in many ways, though they deny, marrying with the state to commit felonies against the citizens in a way that they want to preserve their cars, their ability to stand in church and speak. That kind of the altar is for play by those in cassocks and those with political power. So I see that, and when you read around the French Revolution, I see that one also. Meaning, the Uganda matters of today are of significance, because the Uganda matters are like the Republicans, those who want a free country where everyone dwells and is not tied by a religious group, which actually will use them and hand them over to the politician, who are for their faith as it is, who will move from their village to Namgongo for spiritual growth, not to look for what to eat or what the next day. And so, according to me, the church is and was expected, the Church of Christ is and was expected by the symbol in it, Christ, to help us understand our social and economic problems, but also have the right state of morality to pursue these economic and social benefits. So they are responsible for our moral whipping. They are responsible for our behavior. In our case, it is significant. It is 80% of our population. So if you see more thieves, If you see more corrupt people, then blame the Catholic, Protestant, and Pentecostal churches. They are the ones that harbor these rascals and give them, and they don't talk to them directly. They don't talk to them sacrifice.
Strongly enough.
They don't talk to them strongly enough. But I also maybe think we are expecting too much. We better be like the French. We are expecting too much. Because these same men and women in huge gowns come from us. They come from the society. We could be stuck. We could be having one of the heathens in a cassock, in a huge gown. We could be having one of a sworn sinner, a thief, a real thief, in a huge gown as a bishop. And so then it's up to the Martyrs today to bless us. Because that way, then we will come out as Republicans, all of us, as Republicans, and agree that together we are responsible for our behavior. Together we are responsible for our well-being. Together we are responsible for our politics. Together we are responsible for our church. Together, that there is no one man called bishop or priest, powerful, who is responsible, but Christ, who we know evidently, and the Martyrs, who we know evidently, died for the simple things that we yearn for each day, that will shape our behavior. That's why I have hope in the Uganda Martyrs. That's why I have hope in Christ. Not because a priest with a castle, a huge gown, is talking about Christ, but because Christ evidently, because the Martyrs evidently died for their conscience. They were not fighting against anyone. They did not have guns. They were not fighting against, they didn't want to grab land. They did not want a seat in Nakasero. They were just simply talking about things that were for the good of all. They wanted to live this one life free. And so the church, can I conclude? Yes. The church, because don't ask me in what ways are they responsible for their behavior. They are actually responsible for corruption because they don't clearly talk about it. They are busy soothing. You throw a stone. Oh, what? We are all sinners. But they are not referring to those events in history, in the life of Christ, where he cleared it. Why can't they pull those out more? We need them more than ever before today to produce a morally upright society. We need them more. Not these power games where church leaders are providing a platform for politicians to mislead, to undermine, to create more destitution. I wish today most of our leaders given a chance to speak, including the priest, the high priest in big gowns, spoke to their audiences and actually determined today that the economic and social problems that they have they've come looking for in the Uganda, to solve in the Uganda Martyrs, have been given. And that in our planning, in our execution, in our politicking, in our leaders, in our priorities, we will make sure that this 3rd of June 2022, the services that we are looking for in the Uganda Martyrs and in Christ that will never come if you don't work, that the illnesses that they are suffering from, which have been misdiagnosed because of lack of adequate and sound medical system to diagnose these ailments, they blame them on Christ, and maybe Christ will heal them, I don't know, that they will be provided for, and that their education will also be assured. And that we commit, we, the Catholics, we, the Protestants, we, in these huge gowns, we, who have been given an opportunity, and I'm talking about political leaders, to speak to you, have determined that these things you've brought to the Uganda Martyrs will be given to you through our services to you. The church is responsible for our misbehavior today.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Maybe-
And from that point, I think, Doctor, I'll not give you the opportunity to give your closing remarks. You've really nailed it, and we shall leave it at that. But I know I'll give you that opportunity, Reverend, at that point when
I
I'm
thought it
having...
was important to disabuse. Just
And I'll give you the
two
opportunity
statements.
towards the end, but just to move forward, and this will be a question for both Sarah and Ochieno as we tend into the closure. I would want to ask, can religion play a major role in effecting the much desired political change?
Can religion practice what the Bible says? The people who put on gowns, the people who put on robes, the people who occupy the altars in church, that's an office of Christ.
It's true.
The church is a body of Christ. So there's somewhere in the Bible where it says that I've put you on a weighing scale and I've found you wanting, and your days are numbered. So I think we need to put these people on a weighing scale for that office. Because when they put on robes and they take a step to the pulpit, they represent Jesus.
Yeah, pretty much.
So can they, before we put them on a weighing scale, can they put themselves on a weighing scale and say, one, did I come here for a job? We know there's a lot of unemployment.
Oh, yeah.
People fraud, people whatever, and then they find themselves in these schools to become reverends. Are they there as fraudsters in the employment market? Can they find their way? Because that is an office of Christ. Are they there as pretenders and masqueraders? Can Jesus undress them? Some of them have been undressed. That is an office of Jesus. So we are not going to shy away. That's why I said I don't want to hear these statements of comfort. And Jesus would go ahead and qualify them. We are sinners, and you're there to steer us as sheep, to show us the direction. So don't tell us that we are sinners and you are also a sinner. Then what are you doing there? Can you join this side then? Can you join this side? So that we then go on repentance every day and walk that journey. So don't claim to represent something that you're not. And I think we need to call them out. Jesus stood for social justice, equality, fairness.
And so do
Truth.
Uganda Martyrs also.
So do the Uganda Martyrs. So in between we have the masqueraders that we must deal with. If we are all a congregation of sinners seeking repentance, so be it. We can ask for volunteers on each service
We talk
to
to each other.
lead us, yes. Other than masqueraders, mafias in robes,
Posturing.
posturing in an office of Jesus Christ. I think that should stop.
Thank you. On the issue of effecting the much desired political change, do you think the church can
You see,
or could leave that to...
the church has a clear role to play in situations of repression, in situations of injustice. We saw leadership in the Church of South Africa during apartheid. We were celebrating the life of Desmond Tutu. That was not a charitable celebration.
Recently in Congo, the Catholic Church.
The Catholic Church has been speaking out in Congo. They stopped the rigging of elections. But we have a church here. It's Kororo, it is swearing in, misrepresenting the robes. They don't even talk about the violence. They even don't talk about the people that have died, like the martyrs. As you come to celebrate swearing in, what are you swearing in? The blood of Ugandans. is what you are mumbling about with your robes, misrepresenting Jesus. Can you refuse to go there at least? That's the role the church must play.
And maybe that's why, Reverend, I want to make it. Maybe that's why. That's why every after 5 years or whatever, these prayers are said, we can only go from worse to worse. Maybe someone is misrepresenting Christ. We may not be having the real martyrs, the real believers are those that are left out of the church. Maybe. Because if we were really praying, it would go from better to better. And that's why I believe in the Republican. That's why I believe in the Bible coming back to the people. Let the matters come back to us, the people, and we will change the church, and we will change the government and how it prioritizes and how it conducts its business. Let's not hide in institutions. They are letting us down.
Thank you. I'm going to change a little rules, so I'll need to give Reverend to just make some quick reactions. Then Joseph, you make your submission and possibly conclude at that level. Yes.
Well, thank you, our moderator. In the two arguments between Prof and Dr. Sarah, the church is now in between a hard place and the rock.
Voluntarily.
No. The way the intellectuals are pushed to the church.
It's a body of
I
Christ.
want to say this on behalf of men in collars. If we have something to repent about it, it is time up.
Yeah.
That is one. Two, the beauty about the calling of the office of a priest, or the office of an archdeacon or a bishop, is one that comes from God. Like me, I was called.
Amen.
Yes, I was called.
Amen.
I would be a minister in government or doing some other things. So pursued my political, because I don't say game that I'm not an ally. Been a guild president, I've been a student leader throughout. Then what becomes impossible of me taking up a political position or personing it out with me. Unfortunately, those that represent us fall short of the required standards. Not even just intellectual, but even. Now, the church has a role to play in shaping the leadership of the state. But unfortunately, the church that we have today is disadvantaged in that they don't have the requisite resources to stand on alone and drive its agenda. Yes, it has been manipulated. That one I appreciate. It has been appreciated. I mean, manipulated in a way.
Do the matters have to do this for us?
Yes, well, no, when you look at the matters like Kato, who was 14, I mean, Kizito, who was 14. Yes. The reason that he is remembered. Yeah. How many of the war, Luero, Bush, whatever, are still spoken about when they pass on? We had smart people like Nyakairima around the apostle who is celebrating him today. We have many, Pecos, nice guy, written serious books and statements about what happened in the world. We're celebrating them. Well, they sacrificed some time, took some risks, but of course in vain. If sincere that you sacrificed all does not count today, or does not make you uniquely so like a hero to be celebrated over time. But of course, back to you've raised very serious issues. First and foremost, I want to disabuse the fact that you said Christ might not come. No, he will come. There is the second coming of Christ, and that one we are very sure. Like night follows day.
Reverend Hosea,
Yes.
how many of your colleagues would work with their heads high today if they were told that Jesus has approached, going to receive him? Some of them will run in the opposite direction.
But maybe I can speak for myself. I'll go for it.
Of course, it's not personal.
So,
in the conclusion, Reverend, yes.
in conclusion, I want to, on behalf of the church, although I'm not a spokesman of AE, but I happen to be part and parcel of that institution.
Yes.
Indeed, it is time for us to walk with our heads high. Maybe do three things as Christians. One, participate in the affairs of the state. Two, participate in the affairs of the state. Three, participate in the affairs of the state. And if we must realize the best out of us, three things again.
Okay.
To offer leadership, one. Two, to offer leadership. Three, to offer leadership.
Yes.
Asante.
God bless you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reverend. And finally, Joseph, you answer that, make a reaction, and close it for us.
I know that my time was coming, but I'll make it half the time. But just to say this, that the question about, sort of been summarized by my colleagues. No, the almost established church in this country, by the way, is the Anglican Church. And the Anglican Church is the established state faith religion of Britain. And so, therefore, the church and the state are fused as one. I was giving nuanced suggestions, starting with the conflicts of 1892 and how it has shaped the realities of our country today. It's absolutely primarily because of that I am extremely disappointed by the religious leaders of all the big faith organizations in this country. In fact, when Deus was talking about the percentages of faith guys who line going to church, and as I said, when I said I wrote in my column 12 years ago about these experiences, just imagine the power of what these religious leaders would do if they were able to influence their flocks to say, do not go to Kololo because that is a contested victory. Just that, do not go. If that is, because you know the truth, honestly, most of them would not go. If priests stood onto their pulpits and say, that is contested victory, don't go to that Kololo, they will not go.
And let them also say that we refuse violence during elections.
I'm just giving examples.
Yeah.
I'm just giving examples. Also, possibly even to say that we reject the idea that tens of our people have died and cannot be explained, and so we wonder whether or not the next meeting of so-called prayer breakfast, we've got the power and capacity to be able to come and do it down there, including possibly next Sunday. We also defer Sunday service, but we shall just have a brief. Of course, that's a bit of an extreme. No. Look, Deus, Jesus, Martyr. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, religiously, he used the power of the pulpit to push. The Reverend Jesse Jackson, civil rights, you know, he is the power partly because of faith, and he's used that consistently. In South Africa, although controversies emerged, the Reverend Dr. Alan Bozak, you were still young just before we went to Mwiri. These were the powerful names and powerful voices hitting through the bullets of these apartheid criminals onto our people. They stood. But of course, above all, the Reverend Archbishop Desmond Tutu. He stood. Yeah. And I recall one of those ones, how many of our people must die that have not died? What else can we do that our people have not done? What else must we say, you, that has not been said? The world shook. And with their counterparts in Westminster and their counterparts in Canterbury.
They have a big
Knocked
movement,
down.
global
They
movement.
did. It worked and it changed. I am very particular in this country, very deliberate actually, because I said this is 2022. Let this not be another ritual. I really don't want to come here for another ritual or another day, and but it costs a lot of money, you know, instead of people buying aspirin, you know.
Joseph.
Dr. Sentamu,
Yeah.
retired Archbishop of York,
Yes,
pulled off his thing tip,
yes, in protest of
on television, on protest of Mugabe.
Mugabe repression.
Yes.
Powerful.
Interestingly, I had mixed opinion because he failed to address the underlying issues of the injustices of the Africans which Mugabe stood, and also part of the contradiction that the Brits did with Mugabe. But he stood.
Yeah.
Part of my problem was he remained on the Republic of Uganda, and I've been on television on it, on the Republic of Uganda. Food for thought. What if religious leaders took a position that Saint Janan Lugum did, again in this own country, after the other martyrs, that we take a position and we say no. I think it is possible this country can change. Politics and religion fuse. This country was founded amidst the conflicts, all those things. It's the situation around the world. The moral leadership around the countries, including New Year speeches, normally not only do heads of state do, but actually the media wait for what the leading religious leaders will say about the state of the economy, security, and in many cases, state of poverty and injustice in their countries. And the leaders respond to them and they respect them. The religious leaders don't kneel to rulers. Rulers bow to them. That is real religious leaders. I wait to see those ones in this country.
Thank you very much, Ochieno. And of course, thank you very much, our dear viewers, for being part of this very, very, very interesting conversation, very energizing and emotional. Thank you to Joseph, Sarah, Deus, and Reverend Hosea, who've graced us the opportunity to discuss this today on this Martyrs Day. And of course, to our viewers out there, I hope we've learned quite a lot. And like Joseph has said, we don't have to come back here again to more of take a ritual of the same conversation. Maybe our religious leaders who are out there also need to watch this episode of this conversation and wake up. Take step to cause change. Let us not question your abilities. Let us not question your faith and how you take us on. And from here in the studios of Civic Space TV, my name has been Masesa Demiano. May God bless Uganda.